If you've never made potato chips, you are missing out because they are hands down the best potato chips you will ever eat. And it's easy, you just need 3 ingredients: oil, salt, and potatoes. Now, the choice of potato matters here. You want to choose russets, or more specifically, Burbank russets. Potato chip manufacturers actually use specialized potatoes that are high in starch and low in sugar so that they don't burn. But a russet Burbank is as close as you're going to find at the supermarket, and luckily, you can find them everywhere. So this recipe uses a pound of potatoes, which is just 2 good-sized potatoes. Now, when you're choosing your potatoes at the store, be picky. Find really nice looking potatoes that are roughly the same size so that the slices cook at the same rate. Also, you want to scrub the heck out of them. You want to take not only the dirt, but that outer layer of skin. That way they'll taste nice and clean. So when you're scrubbing, use warm water and a good sponge and just scrub. And you'll see they'll start to change color as you take that outer skin off. All right, those potatoes have been scrubbed thoroughly. You can see they're entirely a different color now because this tender skin is gonna fry up really nicely and you'll get that flavor, but you won't get any of that gritty dirt. Now that they're properly scrubbed, it's time to slice them up. Now we have to slice them really thinly and really evenly so that they cook at the same rate. Actually, you want them to be 1/16 of an inch, which is impossible to do by hand, which is why you need a mandolin. I'll show you, 1/16 of an inch, and yeah, you should measure it. There we go. So I'm just gonna take my time, slice these up, being mindful of the fingers. Now, how far down you go when you get to this nubbin, totally up to you, but in my house, I'd rather be safe than sorry. So we'll set that aside. The potatoes are sliced, and now it's time to think about how we want to flavor them when they're out of the oil, because this is the fun part. You can make them any flavor you want. In fact, I'm going to make today my favorite, which is salt and vinegar, and it's pretty easy to do. I'm just going to use a spice grinder here. I'm going to grind up some salt. This is half a teaspoon of table salt. And then some of this. This is dehydrated vinegar, which is very cool. You can find it at some specialty stores or online. We're gonna use a tablespoon of it. We're just gonna blend it with the salt because that'll make it easier to sprinkle over the chips after they're done frying. We also have a lot of cool variations like barbecue and ranch and so on, and you can find those variations on our website. So, toppings ready, potatoes are done, it's time to get frying. Now, choosing a pot for frying your potato chips is an important one because you want a pot tall enough where you can fit 2 quarts of oil, which is how much you need to fry chips, but also so that there's enough headroom over the oil so that it doesn't bubble out all over your stove and make a mess. So a Dutch oven is perfect, and this is vegetable oil, although you could use peanut oil, and I'm heating this up over medium heat until it registers 375 degrees. Medium heat is important because as the oil temperature dips when you add the cold potatoes, it'll climb back up slowly, and the rate at which that oil temperature climbs determines what kind of texture you'll have. So medium heat is perfect. All right, we're at 375, so it's time to add the potatoes, and I'm gonna add them a handful at a time. I wanna sprinkle them into the oil. Some of them will stick together, that's okay. You wanna get them into the oil as quickly as you can and as evenly as you can without having them stick. And also, I should point out, I have this remote thermometer hanging out on the side over there, monitoring the temperature of the oil as you fry. That's just really handy because the oil temperature is gonna fluctuate as the potatoes cook, and that will determine what kind of chip you get. If you get a crisp chip or a crunchy kettle chip, which is what we're after. Now I'm gonna gently stir them around, try to prevent them from sticking to each other, although some sticking is inevitable, and that's when you get those chips that are kind of curled around each other for the big crunch, which are kind of a favorite of mine. So I'm gonna stir this around, and for the first 2 to 4 minutes, we're just gonna wait for that oil to stop bubbling so vigorously. It's gonna calm down a bit, and the temperature of the oil is gonna drop down to the 240 zone, which is just perfect. So these chips have been cooking for about 2 minutes, and you can see the bubbling has calmed down significantly and the oil temperature has dropped. Now it's hovering around 240, 250, which is perfect. I'm gonna adjust the burner as I need to make it stay in that temperature zone for the next 5 minutes. Monitoring the temperature of the cooking oil is crucial if you want a crunchy chip. Here's why. When slices of potato are plunged into frying oil, the temperature of the oil drops. In this case, from 375 down to 240, 250, where it hovers for a few minutes. We call this temperature range the gel zone. Potatoes contain water and starch granules, which are made up of starch molecules. Once in the gel zone, the starch granules absorb water and swell until their molecules separate and form a gel. As the oil temperature rises to 300 degrees, trapped water converts to steam and begins to force its way out at a moderate rate, while letting the starch molecules fit back together. By the time all the water is driven from the chip, the starch molecules have lined up into a partially ordered matrix that contains some empty spaces. If we turn down the heat so that the oil takes longer to reach 300 degrees, the potatoes will simply spend too much time in the gel zone. This means that the trapped steam inside the gel will force its way out at a much slower rate. And in turn, the starch molecules will have more time to line up into a tighter configuration, leaving very little space between them. This is a hard chip. If we turn the heat up so that the oil reaches 300 degrees more quickly, the potatoes will spend too little time in the gel zone. This means that the trapped steam inside the gel will force its way out at a faster rate, and in turn the starch molecules will have less time to line up, leaving behind a looser configuration with lots of space between them. This leads to a delicate, crisp chip. So for the perfect kettle chip, it's important to let those potatoes hang out in that 240 to 250 degree gel zone for about 5 minutes before letting that oil temperature continue to climb. The chips have been cooking in this 240, 250 zone for about 5 minutes. And now the temperature of the oil is going to climb further to between 280 and 300, which is perfect for getting them brown and crisp. And so it'll be about another 6 minutes or so. And of course, if the oil gets too hot, you just adjust the burner so they don't burn. These chips have been cooking in that 280, 300 zone for about 5 minutes, and they are perfect. Look at this color. Now, one thing you learn as you start to cook these is that they darken in color when they come out of the oil and they start to cool. Now, when they're warm is the time to season them because that's when the seasoning sticks. So I'm going to take this vinegar salt that I made, sprinkle it all over. All right, I'm just gonna let these cool for a little bit, and notice I have them resting on several layers of paper towels on top of a wire rack. This just helps drain away any of that excess oil and helps them cool more quickly. These chips have cooled nicely, and now it's time to enjoy them. Oh, hello. I mean, look at that chip. You can't buy a chip like this. You can only make them, and thank goodness it's easy. That crunch is everything. And I know it looks like a lot of vinegar powder, but it has a very mild flavor that is actually milder than the ones you buy at the store, so it's nice and it goes well with something cold and frosty. This is heaven. So if you want a little slice of heaven, remember 3 things. Use russet potatoes. Slice those potatoes evenly to be 1/16 of an inch thick, and monitor the temperature of the oil as they cook. From America's Test Kitchen at Home, the ultimate recipe for crunchy kettle potato chips.
Thanks for watching. You can get all the recipes and product reviews from this season and more on our website. That's americastestkitchen.com/TV.
Thanks for watching America's Test Kitchen. What'd you think?
Well, leave a comment and let us know which recipes you're excited to make, or you can just say hello.
You can find links to today's recipes and reviews in the video description.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
See you later.
I'll see you later.